Justin Fields and Drake May have very high ceilings for week 5. We reveal our quarterback and tight end fantasy rankings for this week on today's episode of Locked On Fantasy Football.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NFL fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Fantasy Football Podcast. Thank you for making us your first listen every day. I'm one of your co-hosts, Michelle Magdziuk, and when I'm not doing this, I'm a researcher and fantasy analyst for the NFL Network.
And I'm your other co-host, Vinnie Iyer. When I'm not doing this, I'm writing about NFL, fantasy, and betting for sportingnews.com.
Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Today, we are getting into our week 5 positional rankings, starting with quarterbacks and tight ends on today's show. Let's hop right into our quarterback rankings. At the top, we have Josh Allen. No surprise there. But right off the bat here, we start to get bold. And at number 2, you have Drake May as your second quarterback of the week in that same game against Josh Allen going into Buffalo. And I think it's a little risky, but he has been fantastic. And we do have some bye weeks this week. We got Caleb Williams on bye, Jordan Love, Aaron Rodgers, Michael Penix Jr., and then Lamar Jackson looks like he'll be out 2 to 3 weeks. So, Vinny, quarterback 2, you're bold on him this week.
Yeah, I mean, I've talked about it before. You want games where the quarterbacks are going to challenge each other, go back and forth. That's why if you're complaining about the Eagles not passing, it's only happened once this season for them with Matthew Stafford challenging the Eagles in week 3. Well, you saw what happened, right? When Jordan Love and Dak Prescott went after it. Big fantasy numbers to be had everywhere. We are lucky to have a great Sunday night football game for scoring again this week with the Patriots and Bills. The Patriots offense is red hot. They're trying to figure out how to work and everybody. Stephon Diggs, Travion Henderson, Drake May is orchestrating well. He's running to put up some points as well. And Josh Allen is Josh Allen. We don't really need to say much more than that. These defenses have been great. This point total is above 50. They're going to have to toss the ball around in this game. I think Drake May and the Bills are going to see the challenge, right? I think when you have Drake May coming in with Josh Allen, I think you'll see May turning the corner in Josh McDaniels' offense. So it's kind of Josh versus Josh, really, and Allen and McDaniels, and May is just kind of the operator in the middle of that. So I love it. I think this is going to be a high-scoring game and live up to expectations.
Yeah, I have him still as a playable guy at quarterback 11. I'm a little bit scared of this matchup. The Bills have only allowed 13.7 points per game this year to quarterbacks. Lamar had a huge game against them, but again, that's Lamar. But Drake May has been fantastic. He's the quarterback 4 in the season behind only Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and Patrick Mahomes. So if you have him, I completely understand just sticking with him and playing him. My quarterback 2 for week 5 is Justin Fields against the Cowboys. I mean, he's the quarterback 7 in points per game, and that's with one massive, massive dud, right? And he's only played 3 games. So 29.5 points in week 1, 27 points in week 4, only those 4 points in week 2, and he missed week 3 with the concussion. But the Cowboys have just been atrocious on defense, right? Like their offense came alive, and that's good for fantasy on the opposite side. But their defense can't stop anybody. Jalen Hurts, 25 points against them. Russell Wilson, 30. Caleb Williams, 29. Jordan Love, 26. So I think Justin Fields keeps doing his thing. He's going to get the yards on the ground. He's going to probably score on the ground as well. Well, hopefully throwing at least a touchdown or 2. So I love Justin Fields this week.
Yeah, the only reason I don't have him as high as you is I like Dak Prescott in the same game. The Jets defense looks really bad right now. I mean, Sauce Gardner's getting confused. If Tua Tagovailoa can just get Darren Waller off injury mass and just say, hey, go in there and score touchdowns. I mean, this is how bad the Jets defense has fallen apart here with out Robert Saleh, who's having different issues with the 49ers without Nick Bosa. But the Jets defense, definitely a cause for concern for Aaron Glenn, the one that he's inherited. So this is another high-scoring game. This is going to be in a window that a lot of people are going to watch it as well. So Dak should continue his ways. Jordan Love, unfortunately, can't stay hot because he's not playing this week. But Dak should. Justin Fields should. May and Allen also had big games last week. So really those 4 are your best bets this week other than the usual suspects. Jalen Hurts, Justin Herbert. I think he'll rebound. What do you think about Herbert this week? It was a little disappointing, definitely, last week. Basically, I think he cost them a game with 2 really bad turnovers.
Yeah, with Herbert, it's been that huge week 1, fine week 2, and the last 2 weeks have been pretty bad for him at 14.6 and 12.5 points, only 2 passing touchdowns over the last 2 weeks and 3 interceptions. I do think he bounces back, though. The Commanders just let Michael Penix Jr. score 19 points against them. Geno Smith, 26 points the week prior. Jordan Love, 21 points the week prior. So, like, their defense can be throwing on. And as long as Jaden Daniels is back, you would expect the Commanders to be able to score points against the Chargers to keep this game high. I want to just hit on Dak Prescott real quick here. I know he had a huge week 4 game. I have him at quarterback 10. Still can start him. I am a little bit worried that he's on the road. His 2 good games this year have come at home. 2 terrible games on the road this year. In week 1 against the Eagles, week 3 at the Bears, and that's been typical for Dak Prescott throughout his career to be way better at home than on the road. So just if he struggles there, it's most likely due to him not being home. We already mentioned Justin Herbert. We both have him top 5. I actually have him at 3 this week. You have him at 5. Jaden Daniels, if he's back, you play him, and I have him at 5. You have him at 7. What about Daniel Jones, though? Because he's been a hard one to figure out. The first 2 weeks, amazing. But the last 2 weeks, only just 2 total touchdowns combined. And then in week 4, you had -1 rushing yards. Now, it could have been a bigger day for him if A.D. Mitchell didn't just drop the ball for no reason. It wouldn't have been such a bad day. He would have had over 16 fantasy points. But do you think he bounces back in this Raiders matchup?
Yeah, I mean, there was a little bit of odd stuff going on. I mean, Tyler Warren ran in a touchdown on a design play that he had A.D. Mitchell deny Daniel Jones. That should have been touchdown. So, look, it was as bad as it seemed there, but I didn't like the matchup on the road against the Rams. This one is much better. It's at home against the Raiders. The Raiders defense, look, they contain Caleb Williams to some degree, but overall they did not play well in that game, partly because Geno Smith was creating short fields with his turnovers, but that could happen definitely again, right? The Geno Smith struggles to protect the ball and opens things up for the Colts offense. I think it's a rebound game for everybody. I like the matchup for Michael Pittman Jr. and Tyler Warren. And I think they can maybe continue the deep shot fun a little bit in this game. So we did see Rome Odunze score down the middle, and I think that's a vulnerable spot for the Raiders as well. So I think Jones is going to compile. What I like about Jones is he can always add a little bit of rushing. He can always get that rushing score, much like Justin Fields. I mean, these are the things that we wish we would get consistently from Kyler Murray, just finding a way to just put those numbers together. Even Drake May does it to a degree, and maybe we'll see another young quarterback do it here as well. But yeah, I do think Daniel Jones bounces back. I don't know if they're going to have to light up the Raiders. It would help if the Raiders played a little bit better. Geno Smith came in and scored some points to help Jones. But I think he gets 1 score on the ground and 1 score through the air at least this week.
Yeah, I'm with you because I have him all the way up at 6. I might end up pushing him down a bit by the time we get to the weekend because that might be a little too high. But after that, we both have Patrick Mahomes. I have him at 7. You have him at 6. I have Baker Mayfield at number 8, even in a tough matchup against the Seahawks. You're much lower. We'll get to that in a little bit, why you're lower on him. I have Jared Goff at number 9. You have him at 11. So we both like him against the Bengals, even though it's on the road this week. And to finish off my top 10, I have Dak Prescott. And you have Matthew Stafford at the 49ers this week. Why are you so high on Matthew Stafford in a divisional matchup?
When I see Stafford's name, I don't see Stafford's name. I see what are Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams going to do this week? And look, the 49ers pass rush, it fell apart against the Jaguars. They didn't really put pressure on Trevor Lawrence at all. I know Travis Etienne was going off for big runs, but Kyron Williams is not playing at that level at the moment, so they have to do with the passing game. So to me, it's Stafford is all about if those receivers can dominate. I mean, Puka Nacua is on pace for like 178 receptions for 2,134 yards, and somehow he has 1 touchdown. I don't get it. Devontae Adams, as we thought, he's going to be the touchdown guy. Puka is going to dominate the catches and yards. That's exactly what happened, and what I love is that Stafford has stayed healthy to get it done. So in that 49ers matchup, not as scary as it might be on the road. And the Rams are a terrific team on a short week on a Thursday night. So I think Stafford will be well prepared for the 49ers.
Those are all fair enough reasons. We're going to get to the rest of our quarterback rankings, including why Vinnie is just a hater on Baker Mayfield. We'll get to that right after a quick break.
All right, I'd like to welcome in a new sponsor to Locked On Fantasy Football. It's Mizzen and Main. You know the saying, look good, feel good. The problem is that most dress clothes only check one of those boxes. They look sharp but feel stiff, hot, and high maintenance. That's why there's Mizzen and Main. Mizzen and Main makes classic menswear with performance fabrics, so it's effortless to look sharp and feel comfortable. They actually invented the performance fabric dress shirt over 10 years ago, and they've perfected it ever since. I love that you can go from the office to dinner or even out on the golf course, and you can feel comfortable all day in Mizzen and Main gear. It's the feel of athletic wear, but the look of professional menswear. What a great combination. Right now, Mizzen and Main is offering our listeners here to Locked On Fantasy Football 20% off your first purchase at mizzenandmain.com with the promo code LOCKEDONNFL20. That's Locked On NFL, all caps, 20. That's Mizzen, Mizzen, Mizzen and Main, MAIN, mizzenandmain.com. Promo code LOCKEDONNFL, the number 20 for 20% off. And if you'd rather shop in person, you can find Mizzen and Main in a lot of places, select stores in select states.
This episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 of bonus bets to use across the app. I love how FanDuel offers me numerous ways to play. I can build parlays, I can try player props, and I can even put in wagers for the live lines during the games. It makes watching football even more exciting when you've got a little something riding on the action. Whether you're a casual fan or love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Okay, let's finish up our quarterback rankings for week 5. And one guy we have not discussed in detail yet is Baker Mayfield, who I have at quarterback 8 this week, but you are very far down on him at quarterback 16. He's a quarterback 9 in points per game on the season and has yet to have a bust week. So why are you very low on him this week?
Yeah, the Seahawks defense is just playing well right now. They're really good against the pass. So this is a potentially low-scoring game, unlike the shootouts elsewhere. Maybe it's a little bit higher scoring than I think it will be. But again, I have so many guys in those high-scoring potential games. We talked about the May Allen battle. You have Prescott versus Fields, and then potentially Daniels versus Herbert. So that's going to bury Mayfield down because I don't think this game is going to be quite like that in the flow. It's also hard to go from Tampa to Seattle in a tough matchup. A lot of draining stuff the past few weeks. Eagles game was rather emotional, that loss. So now you're going across country. So it's usually a tough situation here. But again, I don't have high expectations for this game to be very high scoring. I think the Seahawks will run a little bit, grind it, play some defense, try to make it a little bit ugly with the Buccaneers this week. And that's my concern for both Mayfield and Sam Darnold this week.
Yeah, I guess I just think Baker Mayfield's very safe, right? It's been 23 points, 20, 18, 19 points for him, and that's in a 4-point passing touchdown league. He just feels safe no matter what the matchup is, and I do expect the Seahawks to be able to put up some points against the Buccaneers. So I expect this to be a higher scoring game than you do, possibly. Now, one thing we do agree on is that Jackson Dart he's risky but playable this week against the Saints. He didn't put up big numbers through the air, but put up a lot of points on the ground this week. And the Saints are beatable. They, especially on the ground as well. I mean, Kyler Murray had a good game on the ground against the Saints in week 1. Josh Allen just put up 45 rushing yards and a touchdown against them in week 4. So it stinks Malik Neighbors is gone. Obviously we'd feel better about him, but I thought overall he looked really good in his first start and against a way harder defense in the Chargers than it will be this week against the Saints.
Yeah, there was some mid-game adversity he had to deal with. He adjusted pretty well. He held the lead. He threw his first touchdown pass after he looked great running. They designed a play for him to score in the red zone, and he delivered. And like Brian Daboll, I've not seen him have that look in his eye and joy over a quarterback since he had a young Josh Allen if I'm Dable, I'm watching what Josh Allen did against the Saints defense, studying that, seeing what you can do here on the road, because I think that's how you tackle it. I can see Jackson Dart having a big game against the Saints running, because when you look at the history, right? I mean, Jalen Hurts, it reminds me of kind of Jalen Hurts when he was first starting, right? A dual threat guy, has some arm, maybe doesn't have the best of weapons yet, but can manufacture some offense with his legs and all that. So I think they'll have some good enough replacements, right, between for this particular matchup. Like, it's going to hurt them in other games not having Malik Neighbors, but Darius Slayton, Wan'Dale Robinson, Theo Johnson, a little Cam Scatteraboo out of the backfield. That's all you need, because, again, I think he's going to have a nice floor rushing, probably like 11 points, like 50 in a score. So then you're starting with that, and then you just add a little bit passing, and you're in a good spot. So I actually do like him quite a bit this week, even ahead of Baker Mayfield a couple spots. I think Dart has a little bit of a coming out party in New Orleans.
Yeah, I think Dart has a solid enough game and he could be a sleeper, but definitely would not be getting bold enough to start him over a guy like Baker Mayfield. Now, our quarterback 13s, we're kind of flipped on these two guys. I have Sam Darnold at 13 against the Buccaneers. You have Bryce Young against the Dolphins. I have Bryce Young at 19 in my quarterback rankings, and you have Sam Darnold at 21. I completely understand that Bryce Young's matchup is so much better against the Dolphins, who have just been giving up fantasy points to a ton of them, to every quarterback that they face this year in Daniel Jones, Drake May, Josh Allen, and Justin Fields. But all four of those quarterbacks have been just much better fantasy quarterbacks throughout this entire season than Bryce Young. In the last 2 weeks, we've been saying Bryce Young has good matchups. Bryce Young has great matchups. And he has 11.6 points and 10.3 points in those good matchups. So I'm sick of caring about the matchup for Bryce Young. Maybe he can do it, but I'm not risking it.
Yeah, it's a risky play. I mean, I'm getting a little risky. I know the bye weeks are throwing things off. I mean, really, there's not a lot of regular starters. If you look at the bye weeks, there's Caleb Williams. Maybe we're starting Jordan Love. And then obviously Aaron Rodgers and Michael Penix are kind of fringe starters. So I don't think you need to dig too deep. It's more of a point that Bryce Young tends to stink on the road. I mean, you talk about a guy that stinks on the road. I mean, he's a lot worse than Dak Prescott, and he's a younger quarterback that's a little bit more volatile. It's risky, but I think the Dolphins are just that bad. I think you can put those numbers up. We saw what Justin Fields did against them. It's at home. If it was in Miami, forget it. He's way off here. But it's for some reason, I think he plays more inspired at home, and this is their second home game of the season. So I am going with the Panthers. If you need him to stream, I think it's fair to take a shot on him this week. It's a little volatile, and that's going to how it's going to be a little bit right after you get past the usual suspects in the top 10.
I have Kyler Murray at 14. You have him at 17. He's just going to kind of live in this area. It's never a guy you're going to be excited to start. He ended up coming through with a good end of the game in week 4, but yeah, it's never one of those that you could just feel confident in. Now, I have Geno Smith at 15 and Bo Nix at 16. We're both lower on Bo Nix this week at Philly. It's a hard matchup. I know Geno Smith has been throwing interception after interception after interception, but he's passing a lot. He has a lot of passing yards, and he does have at least one really good fantasy day under his belt in week 3, and then another solid enough game in week 1. So those 2 games came in away games. For some reason, he's been really bad in his 2 home games. So he's on the road this week. I don't really know if that correlates at all, but he just has to stop the turnovers, and he'll be fine.
You know why he does well in away games, Michelle? Because home games feel like away games because everyone just comes into town. I thought that was a Bears home game in Las Vegas. It was just really bad. So with Geno Smith, maybe he needs to get away from his own stadium's opposing crowd noise and get somewhere else. But he's going to face some noise in Indianapolis. And that team is doing well. They need a rebound from their first loss here. Geno, again, the turnovers are just getting a little bit sickening, right? He saved himself last week to modest point scoring, right? Because he got the 2 touchdown dash and Genty, and then he did a little bit of running to negate one of the interceptions. But that was it. He couldn't approach 200 yards. So I'm a little bit worried about these weapons if Geno gets shut down like that. If it's the Genty show, I thought that could be the case at some point, but I think they're going to have to throw it a little bit. I just wouldn't risk it here. The funny thing is I had to play Geno last week. I had doubts about Brock Purdy. I had doubts about Daniel Jones. He ended up outscoring them both because of Genty. So that was a little bit fortunate, but I can't say I was excited about it. Bo Nix is the other option. I don't know if I can go there, Michelle, this week. I mean, he's good. He's another guy, good at home, but you put him away, he's a different type of quarterback.
Yeah, he really is, and I don't want to risk that if I don't have to. Now, CJ Stroud, he has a great matchup against the Ravens. I don't know if I want to get that bold. You do have him at 15, so you say he's a playable guy this week. With Brock Purdy, he plays on Thursday night, and that's if he plays. He re-aggravated his turf toe injury, so he's questionable. Ricky Pearsall's questionable, and George Kittle's still out, right? So he has no weapons. He's hurt. Just don't play him. I just wouldn't play him against that Rams defense. And that's all I have to say about that. We're going to transition into our tight end rankings for week 5 to close out today's show right after we take a quick break.
All right, this episode of Locked On Fantasy Football is brought to you by Rugiet Long, and it's a sponsor that we've had on the show before, and they've got a new product here. What do you get when you have a bald eagle standing on top of a silverback gorilla riding a T-Rex? Confidence, pure confidence. If you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rugiet Go Long. This is the same makers of Rugiet Ready. Guys, you've probably heard of Viagra or Cialis, maybe even tried them. But if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rugiet Go Long. That's exactly where Rugiet Go Long comes in. It's not just another ED pill. It's a total game changer for confidence. The process is simple. Connect with a board-certified doctor 100% online, and if you're prescribed, your treatment ships discreetly right to your door. The effects can last up to 36 hours. That's confidence all day, all night, and even into the next day. Ready to level up your confidence in the bedroom? Head to Rugiet.com and use the promo code LOCKEDONNFL for 15% off your first order. That's Rugiet, Rugiet.com. Use the promo code LOCKEDONNFL. Make sure you use our code to save that 15% and know that we sent you. All right, Michelle, let's transition to tight end. Tight end is getting kind of interesting, right? I mean, some of the usual suspects not doing it. And we have actually more tight end that's kind of hurting us this week with Tucker Kraft not available to us and Kyle Pitts coming off a good game not available to us. So how do the top of your tight end rankings look this week?
They look a lot like yours. So we have the same top 3 tight ends, a slightly different order. I have Trey McBride at number 1, Tyler Warren number 2, Brock Bowers number 3. You have it Warren 1, Bowers 2, McBride 3. I know Bowers has been a letdown. That knee injury that he suffered has been slowing him down. Hopefully with each week it starts to get better and better. But like if you roster him, you got to just keep going with him unless this just lasts for far too long. Now, Sam Laporta has also been highly, highly disappointing. I'm going to keep him at number 4 for this week and not freak out yet. You have him at 7. I get it. He hasn't scored a touchdown yet. The week 1 was good in targets and receiving yards, but it's only been 4 targets in each of the last 3 games. But I do still really like this matchup against the Bengals. They let TJ Hawkinson score 13 and a half points in half PPR in week 3. They really didn't play any other tight ends this year that are of notability, right? Harold Fannin had a good game in week 1 with David Njoku having a bunch of drops in that week 1 game. But Laporta has to step up. I think he can do it.
Yeah, I just want him to get some more opportunities. It's like Jared Goff is like locked into him on Ross St. Brown and Jahmyr Gibbs of late. They've been the entire team in terms of the scoring if they're not getting field goals here. So that's my only concern. But the matchup is great. I have him at 7, only a few spots below. In between, you got to like Jake Ferguson. The targets are just monstrous, and he got a touchdown. Well, how about that for Jake Ferguson? That's great. They're playing the Jets this week. Hunter Henry has just been the go-to guy here for Drake May. I don't know how you can sit him at all right now in this matchup against the Bills. And Dalton Kincaid, he's doing what we were hoping he was going to do last year. He's doing it this year as one of the key go-to guys. Now, the interesting guy, I would say, that already deviates at number 8. I'm high on Dallas Goedert this week. All of a sudden, this is a guy that's scoring. I mean, what's going on here? The Eagles receivers are whining. Dallas Goedert has scored 3 touchdowns in the past 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, I think Goddard might be the tight end 1 on the year right now. That's how much just one game can change everything for you. I am a little bit lower because you just never know what you're going to get out of the Eagles, right? One week it'll be Saquon Barkley. One week it's Jalen Hurts stealing all the touchdowns. One week it's AJ Brown and Devonta Smith involved, and then 1 week it's finally Dallas Goedert's game. They're just too unpredictable, so I'm not going to try to chase those touchdowns from Goddard last week. There's other guys that I feel a little bit safer about their workload in any given week, and I'm with you with Kincaid and Ferguson and Hunter Henry. All great plays this week. They're my tight ends 5 through 7. They're your tight ends 4 through 6. So if you have them, you're feeling very good. Now, what about Zach Ertz? I'm as long as Jaden Daniels is back, I'm willing to go back to that well. I have Zach Ertz at 8 and you have him at 12. Again, he's only going to stick at 8 if Jaden Daniels is there because the production has not been coming with Marcus Mariota. But the first 2 weeks with Jaden Daniels, he had a touchdown in both of those games, 10.1 points in week 1, 15.4 in week 2 with 8 targets in week 2. So I think as long as he has his quarterback back, he's good to go.
Yeah, it's going to have to be Deebo Samuel and Zach Ertz getting a lot of targets for this team with Terry McLaurin hurting. So I think it makes a lot of sense if the starting quarterback returns. I know the Chargers on paper have been decent against the tight end, but they did allow a touchdown to Theo Johnson on a nice little play by the Giants last week. So Ertz can be a big red zone factor. Other guys we like at Juwan Johnson were both solid play this week at number 9. The interesting thing is, what do you do with the big 3, so to speak, that we thought were a big 3 at some point behind George Kittle? Mark Andrews, Travis Kelce, TJ Hawkinson. I think of all of them, I don't know if I'm confident about any. I guess I would say Hawkinson. Kelce hasn't done anything. Andrews now doesn't have Lamar Jackson and disappeared against the Chiefs last week. I don't know what to do with these guys.
Yeah, I'm wondering if Tyler Huntley would actually be a better thing, though, for Mark Andrews. And Mark Andrews had good games with him before. So I don't know. I think if you roster them, they're all playable. But if you can pivot to a different guy, but at this point, Kincaid and Ferguson and Henry and Juwan Johnson and Zach Ertz, they've all been picked up off waivers, right? So if you do want to pivot off those guys, a couple of guys I like this week, Darren Waller, I mean, it might sound crazy, right? But I get it. It was just the 2 touchdowns and not much else. But he played 27% of snaps last night. That's it. And he had 4 targets, 3 receptions, 27 yards, and 2 touchdowns. We expect that target or that snap share to increase each game because he hasn't played since 2023. This was his first game back. And on the season, Miami, the tight end leader in targets for Miami is Tanner Conner at 6. Darren Waller had 4 just last night in his first game with the team. Tyreek Hill's gone. I mean, as long as Darren Waller stays healthy, I think he is a good pickup and play.
Yeah, I think his role will actually expand. Everyone's going to look at he had 2 short red zone touchdowns. Is that going to sustain itself? But it has to at this point. I mean, to be used, their receiving core stinks. They got Nick Westbrook-Akine and some of these other dudes. I think Malik Washington is there. It's just not great after Jalen Waddle, the weapons. And the matchup is really good this week against the Panthers. One other guy, injury-related. If everyone's falling like flies for the 49ers, and you may not have too many healthy wide receivers, Jake Tonges has actually done pretty well of late. He had a nice little game against the Jaguars. You can throw on the Rams at tight end, so keep that in mind. That could be just out of what they can do in that matchup. He might be the one guy that gets open.
Yeah, maybe. I couldn't possibly start him.
He's a dark throw. Yeah.
And if it's Mac Jones back again, maybe it's back to Luke Farrell who gets the touchdown. Who knows at the tight end position. I actually, another guy that could be a sleeper at tight end if you're looking to pick someone up to play him because your guy's struggling. Mason Taylor, his snap share has been high, 87% in week 1. It dropped a little bit into the lower 70s week 2 and 3, but back up to 81% in week 4. And he had his best game of his career this last week with 7 targets, 5 receptions, 65 yards. Has yet to find the end zone. And, the passing game with the Jets is always up and down. But this team desperately needed someone next to Garrett Wilson to step up and get targets. And last 2 weeks, 6 and 7 targets. So he's getting more involved, 4 and 5 receptions in those games. So just a guy that I don't think he has super high upside, but he's a playable guy if you're desperate for someone off waivers.
Yeah, I guess he needs just his dad, Jason, at the game, so it's always helpful at home. He definitely woke up as a deep sleeper that I had down for week 4. I didn't really expect him to be that much involved, but they have to throw to somebody other than Garrett Wilson on every down. So that's something that developed. But it's been a strange year, tight end. I mean, Andrews up and down, Kelsey not doing his thing. Hawkinson hasn't been what we expect. The Jaguars are now getting into committee all of a sudden. You have 2 guys we've counted on, David Njoku and Evan Ingram, just doing nothing. So tight end's been hard, Michelle, but definitely I think with Waller, Taylor, and look, if you're desperate, Tonges, maybe some guys to stream or play this week.
Yep. That will be it for today's episode. Thank you all for making Locked On Fantasy Football your first listen of the day. For your second listen, get a double dose of the Locked On NFL podcast. Tyler, the Madman Roland, gives you a shot of espresso to start your football day, while Tony Wiggins takes you into the barbershop for the smoothest breakdowns to end the day. Find Locked On NFL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. By the way, I'm on that show on Thursday morning, so if you want more of me, you can check out that episode for sure. We will be back tomorrow talking through our running back rankings for week 5. Don't miss it. Bye, y'all.